Hello, everyone. We're back. I'm Crystal Golightly, and I'm here with Nathan Herman.
Hey, Crystal.
Hi. So we've been gone for a while. Nathan and I have been working on what's the next thing that we want to chat about. And so we've come up with an idea, and this show is our introduction to the influence gap. Nathan, tell everyone tuning in, what does that mean?
What does it mean? I mean, I think we're going to figure that out as we go. At kind of the center of what we want to do is talk about all things B2B influence. So the who, what, when, where, and why of influence in the B2B context, if you will. Who's influential? What do we do to track it? Everything that goes into that conversation. Obviously, I work in analyst relations. You work in the analyst ecosystem. That's something we're really comfortable talking about, and we're going to keep talking about it. I don't think you can talk about B2B influence without talking about analysts. But there's so much more to it. There's how does the up and coming CMO consider an influence campaign for an early stage startup? There's how does the demand gen leader go about shaping their campaigns in a world where people just aren't visiting websites as much. And these are some of the topics we want to dig into. We want to talk about analytics. We want to talk about metrics, which is disgusting. We want to talk about influencers. We want to talk about the media. I mean, I think we wanted to give ourselves a platform where we could really go where the conversation takes us.
And not just a platform, but take the opportunity to explore topics that our day jobs don't really allow us to. And the one thing I just kind of want to swirl into all of that you talked about is the machines do a lot for us now, way more than they did a year ago, right? And so I think like just thinking about like what is influence and what is influencing me, and everyone's talking about the human in the loop and relationships still matter. And so, let's like bring all of that together and think about decision makers and influencers, and how do we take our human side, our the machines and the data and all the things, and what does that look like? And at the end of the day, what is influencing you to make decisions? May that be make the decision to buy something in the consumer market, or make the decision to invest your time or your energy, or buy a very expensive enterprise platform or service agreement. Like there's so many factors into how decisions are being made, or maybe the factors are getting smaller,
Are we talking
like
about the consumer market, by the way? You said what influences you to buy something in the consumer.
okay, that's a great question. The reason why I bring that up is I have been saying this since the minute I sort of came into this kind of influence world, if you will. And I used to say all the time that our users are consumer users, not just enterprise users. So if you think about yourself, like you're using whatever your favorite mobile device is, you're buying stuff on Amazon, you're flipping doom scrolling through whatever your social media vice may be. And so I think like how do you don't tear that apart. And so when you're used to a consumer platform, like let's talk about software, right? And you know exactly where to find this, that, and the other, then you go to your enterprise, that experience is influencing your enterprise experience, right? And so, like, all of this plays a role into who we are as technology consumers and buyers and decision makers.
It's a really good point. I was at a conference a couple years ago and we were at a happy hour. And I believe I was talking to somebody from SAP. It may have been a different company, but it was one of the large kind of SaaS companies. And we started talking about influence and we started talking about how that relates to analyst relations and just also the wider marketing ecosystem. And she told me that their marketing department had decided to create a TikTok account because they fundamentally believed that the buying center had shifted, that it was more geared towards millennials and in some cases Gen Z, increasingly so. And so the thought was that if they spin up a TikTok account as a B2B organization, but advertise on a consumer platform, they may end up reaching somebody in the buying center. That's probably true. B2B buying extends into the consumer space, which I actually think is a really good observation. It's probably not a unique one, but still, it's worth talking about. I want to unpack that. I was at the Forrester B2B Summit recently, and they talked about in the B2B context that the buying center is now 11 or 13 internal individuals. I can't remember the exact number. I wrote about it on LinkedIn. And then the external buying center is like 7 to 9 external stakeholders. Those could be analysts, those could be influencers, those could be news media. So I think our worlds increasingly become intertwined. That's just how it works. And I think you're dead on the money. You may end up being influenced in the consumer context for something that you'll use in the B2B context. So let's see if we can do something with it.
So it wouldn't be me if I didn't also say in the same breath that whenever B2B tools find me in my consumer time, I kind of go, "Ooh!" Like, "What is this? How do you know? How did you find me here?" And then sometimes it's, like, serendipitous. Like, for instance, we're recording on Riverside, right? And that's found me in some of my consumer worlds, and I'm like, "Yeah, I really like this tool
Well, that's a
for
good
all of
point.
these different
We
reasons."
use Opus Clip for, our editing and for our promos and
Sizzle reels, yeah.
our sizzle
Shout
reels.
out.
Shout out Opus Clip, not sponsored. Could be, but not. It's obviously we're using it in a consumer context because we're doing this of our own time and volition, but I see a lot of B2B centered advertisements around Opus Clip. So, to be fair, there
Yeah.
are tons of technology categories that span both, right? Like employee resource tools aren't being targeted to a consumer for consumer use. That would make no sense. But
And
they
Nathan,
may end up
sometimes they start out as consumer. Let's look at Canva, and then they're trying to pivot into the enterprise world, right? And what does that look like?
just shout out to the Decoder podcast with Nilay Patel. They had the Canva CEO on recently, and she is perhaps the most well media trained person in the world. So yeah, let's not touch that one. Yeah,
Interesting, yeah.
yeah.
With that being said, I think that we forgot one thing in terms of our vision for this. We are not the experts. And what we really want to do is talk to industry people, people that we respect, people that we find interesting, or just someone that wants to chat with us because they want to get to know us for, 30 minutes. And so we'll have a rotating guest. With what frequency, we don't know. It kind of depends how much folks want to hear about the influence gap, where we're going to shine a light on what actually influences buyers, mostly in the enterprise tech market space.
You do know that we've completely changed what we said at the beginning, though. I was talking about the influence gap, and I said it was a podcast about B2B influence. And so now we've decided in the course of talking it's just about influence in general. And that's some of the craziness I think you're going to get with you and I hosting a podcast together, but it should make for good conversations.
And that's what's so important about the human side of this era of work right now. With that, Nathan, do you want to close us out?
Thanks for listening to Crystal and I ramble. There is an idea of a plan behind the seemingly lack of a plan. Looking forward to recording the first full episode for everyone. Let us know what you want to see out of the show. We take community seriously. We want to build this with you for you. But in the meantime, stay safe, stay well, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah. See you later, everyone. Goodbye.